Hello everyone, I'm George from Ireland. So I'm commenting more on this conflict in Ukraine. It's now been going on for over 9 days, and Kiev still hasn't fallen. Only one fairly major city, Kherson, has been taken. Kharkiv, only 30 miles from the Russian frontier, still hasn't been taken. Nobly battles on. So over 1 million refugees have fled beyond Ukraine's borders. There's a population of 40 million in Ukraine. About 5 million are already in Russian-occupied Ukraine. Some people will stay to fight on. Some people are just too unwell, too elderly to actually leave. But, that would still leave something like 30 million people who could leave. I don't think that many will leave. But Putin might be also counting on this, on the welcome being limited in the Western world, eventually being fed up. This is too much, more than we can cope with. Please, Putin, can we do a deal with you so these people can go back? But I think Putin thought it would be a coup de main attack, which is why they had so little in way of food and fuel. He'd seized Kiev within hours, and they almost managed to get that airfield in the first morning. They're then beaten off. But the Ukrainian military, they didn't think, well, if we managed to save this airfield for the moment, Antonov airfield, well, let's just blow up the runway because we're not going to be able to save it forever. But they didn't do that, so obviously I'm a tactical genius. But China has not called this a war. They've gone along with the Kremlin's line that it's not a war, and they notably abstained in the UN Security Council resolution vote. The Russians didn't need that abstention, but they still appreciated it. Remember, in February this year, they said this is a partnership without limits between China and Russia. Even though China would like to get back its territory of north the Amur River, they're waiting for the propitious moment when Russia's really feeble. Well, Putin is enfeebling Russia right now, so that time may not be as far off as you would initially guess. But anyway, the Chinese, they've issued a rare coded rebuke calling for restraint on both sides, as though the Ukrainians are doing something they shouldn't be doing. They're doing absolutely what they should be doing, which is resisting this illegal invasion, and an egregiously brutal invasion. Invasions can never be gentle, but this is horrific, even as invasions go. And the Chinese are worried, just morality aside, that this sets a dangerous precedent. If Russia can break all the rules of international law, who else is going to do it and attack another country? There's been a spike in oil prices up to $120 for Brent crude. That's impacting China, and the Western world's going to have to spend more on energy, therefore have less money left to purchase Chinese manufacturers. So the People's Republic of China doesn't like this one bit. And China is obviously trusted by Russia and has a fairly good relationship with Ukraine as well. So could they play the honest broker? Perhaps they'll mediate between them. Armenia and Azerbaijan have offered to do so and managed to have a fairly good relationship with both. Turkey's offered to do so, even though Turkey's a NATO country. Talks took place in Belarus, even though Belarus has certainly expedited the Russian expedition, if not been a co-belligerent. The Ukrainians have said that the Belarusian army is fighting against it, but I don't know if that's true. President Lukashenko denies it. Obviously, I wouldn't trust a word he says, same as Putin. So Putin was on television just today reassuring the Russian public that everything is going according to plan, it's all on track. Why does he feel impelled to tell people that? Presumably precisely because it's not going according to plan. It was meant to be over by now. And he keeps harping on about them being Nazis in Ukraine. And this makes me wonder, does he actually harbour this ludicrous ambition of subjugating the entire country? Which would really stretch his forces beyond breaking point. Now, that huge armoured column just north of Kiev, why are the Ukrainians not hammering that? Maybe because they'd be shot down. The thing is, I think they should throw everything they have at it. Eventually, their air force is going to be wiped out. That's just a matter of time. It's true. Might as well do a lot of damage now and make the price very high for the Russians. And blow up all those bridges across the Dnieper. If they could blow up that bridge that links Crimea across the Sea of Azov to Russia, but they haven't done any of that. And, I don't want anyone to come to harm. I do feel sorry for the Russian soldiers. They're mostly good people, and they're also victims of Putinism, and not everybody on the Ukrainian side is a good person. And that's it, because you get all personality types. You get good people and evil people in any nationality, in any religion, in any arbitrary group. So it's terribly sad. And you see the effect it's having on the world economy. Now, there was that, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station the Russians seized yesterday, shelling it. Fortunately, minimal damage was done, but people said that was grossly irresponsible, could have caused a huge ecological calamity. and it was darkly reminiscent of the Chernobyl disaster of 1986, which of course the Soviet government lied and lied and lied about, wouldn't evacuate people on time, so a lot more people died needlessly because of that. That's in the extreme north of Ukraine, and I thought in a sense that is Ukraine's nuclear weapon. Would the Ukrainians even deliberately destroy that sarcophagus over it to release all the radioactivity, because that would decimate the population of Belarus, and I don't want Belarusian civilians to get killed, but Zelensky might say, well, in extremis, I've got to do this. That's the most thing I can do. And also, the Russian soldiers around there in northern Ukraine said, we're getting out of here. We'll just drop their guns and flee and disobey orders for the radioactivity. It would affect Western Russia. It'd affect northern Ukraine anyway. But the Ukrainian civilians have largely fled northern Ukraine, and it would be such a calamity for the world. And we know that Putin would get the blame for it, especially if the Ukrainians started some fight. It wouldn't be clear whose missile, whose shell struck it. But that may not be possible. It would be a deeply immoral thing to do. But he might say, "Well, this is the only way I can save my bacon." Who would want to rule this area? And it would cost tens of billions of dollars to try and repair that, to try and limit the damage. Anyway, so it's already going badly for Putin. I think obviously he's lost the plot, and it's been astonishing to hear Sean Hannity, that Fox News host, saying, that Putin should be assassinated. Senator Lindsey Graham saying likewise that someone in Putin's inner circle should kill him. That we have the Ides of March coming up. And much though I abominate Putin, this is a highly irresponsible inflammatory rhetoric, the sort of incendiary rhetoric that Putin goes in for. The trouble is, it makes him even more likely to lash out, to think, oh right, they're plotting against me, press the nuclear button, so don't do that. Obviously, maybe it is wiser to grind him down rather than do something sudden and drastic like dispatching troops to Georgia, persuading the Finns and the Swedes to join NATO, something like that. Even though Russia just doesn't have enough troops available to do anything about that, it would make him feel even more hemmed in. But if he's mired in this partisan conflict, taking high casualties, that's really bad for him. He said he's going to pay $65,000 compensation to the family of every Russian soldier who's killed. I very much doubt it, especially where the Russian government's economy is going. When has the Russian government ever honoured its promises to its people? So it looks like martial law's coming in. Some Russians are fleeing abroad, some free-thinking ones, and they're just really worried the way things are going. Ever more oppressive, going back to Stalinism. Well, that's it. It's a deeply dispiriting situation. It reminds me how lucky I am to be free. Sometimes I think the Swiss or the Swedes had the right idea. Just don't comment on these things, stay out of other people's fights, and that's it. And if they do conquer your country, you just have to roll over and accept it, because you're not going to win. I know they tried to build up their armed forces, Switzerland and Sweden, to be a realistic deterrent. But if it came to it, well, we'd see what happened. Thank you for following my video. Toodaloo.